Good morning, good afternoon. We're in virtual time, timeless time. It's hard to know what time it is, literally and figuratively. So we're in a time of transition. It needs to be a time of transition. It needs to be a time of saving for emergencies, preparing for emergencies. That's what the message is. That's what the head financial person who's advising people on what to do with all this money they're going to get from the Biden administration could be getting, $6,000-7,000 if they have a bunch of kids, and good. So what her advice was is save to have 12 months of security. That you need 12 months to pay for what you need, and she was advising people even to stop even paying their credit cards, which
most people
that was
have
a hard
12 days.
People, yeah, 12 days. Yeah, people don't have a lot. They say most people don't have more than $400 of extra money, and. So anyway, that was just something to think about. That concurrency of voices is preparing for emergencies, and that's the world we're living in, and we have to prepare for emergencies. And Mayor Liccardo was talking about it as um, saying, he's creating a resiliency core, but a lot of it's like helping small businesses, blah, blah, blah. And so it needs to be growing food. That I think is the only resiliency we need. He's saying, oh, help kids with language and reading. That's good, helping kids. But I think what we could do is apply our reading towards reading about growing food, right? There's a name for that.
There's actually a problem with his approach. He says we have to get kids back in school so they can work on their ERs. No. Okay,
Well,
that's fine.
just correct you 1 second. I'm talking about the resiliency program, and part of it is we're talking about young adults, which are like 18 to 26 is his target, to give them full-time jobs. And one of the things he was suggesting is that we would have them help kids with their reading, and things that we've lost out a lot of learning. That's one of the problems he's trying to solve, and bringing kids up to reading standards. And what I'm saying is that there's a talk about it in educational circles where you have a theme and everything is based on it, all your learning. You've heard of that, where it's it's theme oriented, meaning, like, in my suggestion would be all learning would be about growing food, so that and then all our skills could be improved through learning how to grow food. So you would learn how to read because you'd be reading about LED lighting and seed packs, how to grow it,
to some
how
extent,
to create.
That's what a magnet school is. There were magnet schools set up for music,
Right,
art, science,
and all the learning would happen through those modalities.
and so you went to this academy because you're interested in music, but that was just the basis of your education, was music. Or you went somewhere else because you were interested in technology. Well, that was just the basis of your education. You still learn how to read, write, arithmetic, and all that stuff. These were magnet schools. They were by and large experimental. I don't know if there's any left. I haven't heard much about them recently. It was just kind of a thing that people were trying. And so maybe he's referring to that. Maybe that's gone now. The magnet schools are gone, or they've been repudiated. They're elitist, whatever the problem was with magnet schools. Many of them were elitist, obviously. It's not too many families that have a child that wants to focus on technology or music or art that isn't already doing really well, right? Because for a child to be able to think about, oh, I want to be a musician, or I want to be an artist, your other needs are being met, right? Hungry children, frightened children who live in bad neighborhoods with gunfire every night. They're not thinking about, oh, I want to be a rocket scientist. I want to be a teacher. They're not having those thoughts. They're like, I want it to end. That's their thought.
Yeah.
Their thought is make it stop. So the magnet schools were by and large for elitists, and because I'm not saying that they were discriminatory. I'm saying that there's a self-selection in there.
Mm-hmm.
Bring us your child if your child wants to be in a music school. Well, okay, so all the children show up are wealthy families, and they've already had lots of music school. They've been playing the violin since they're in the piano since they were 5, and it's like, well, okay, we see where this is headed, and it's self-selection. I mean, it was an okay idea, but it becomes elitist. So anytime that you're going to say, well, let's get children who really want to do something with their life, you're selecting for families that don't have problems with their basic needs. And I think one of our biggest challenges going forward is that we have to really bring everybody along. We can't just have education opportunities for people who have time to think about what they want to be when they grow up. I mean, that's okay too, but we have to be more inclusive than that. And one of the challenges in the past has been, okay, we'll bus children to other communities where, the communities are more self-actualized and more together. And then those children will be in that environment. There was a lot of opposition to that, because when you bus children into better zip codes, I mean, that's somewhat subjective, but that's how they call it. When you bus children into better schools, then you're busing children out of the better schools into the more challenging schools. And so, wow, how's that supposed to work? You're causing some child to not even go to their own school, which is 3 blocks from that school, and yet that child's getting on a bus and going to some other community. Problems.
Well, okay, getting back to what I was saying, which I really think is and this is what we've been talking about, I'm saying the he calls it a resiliency core. I think the only resiliency that Kat has been talking about over and over is growing food. And that just needs to be our focus. I think that needs to be the focus of all of the work that we do. And on top of it, it can also be the skills of learning to live without fossil fuels. So those, I call it the school of the home arts. So we can be learning these things. And I think that any program that is designed should not use fossil fuels. Nobody should be using fossil fuels to do any of that work on our resiliency program, because that is the way we will be more resilient, is when we stop using fossil fuels. So this program has to be,
Sam Liccardo.
Well, I don't want to talk. I know the problem.
Whether he knows this or not,
do it. I know.
He's not interested in resilience. Okay, he's interested in getting people back in the workforce.
Okay, that's the truth. I guess that is most probably the truth. And so.
And even if he has a resilience program, so-called, if you just open the first page and see what it's talking about, it's not talking about resilience.
Yeah.
Everything is about jobs and getting people back in the workforce and getting people back to work. It's like, what's that got to do with anything? It was our dependence on jobs that made us vulnerable, which is the opposite of resilient, okay?
Right.
So if you want people to be resilient, then you may want to think about how you make them less vulnerable to downturns in the economy. All right, so how do you do that? Let's just talk first principles. Let's not talk about getting people back in jobs. I mean, I know why you want to talk about that, Sam. That's like your bread and butter. Getting people lined up to flip burgers and make burritos.
The people that support your campaigns.
But what about this noise you're making about making communities more resilient? Right. Why don't we just talk about that? Shall we talk about that a little bit? How about that? You did mention it. You're the one who brought up the topic. All right, let's talk about it. And you can't have the conversation we'll get everybody into a job, because we have learned the hard way. We have learned this many times. We keep learning the same lesson or not learning it, as the case may be. That when people are dependent on jobs, they are not resilient. That's just the fact. That's just how that shit works.
That's the history of who we are.
No, that's the history of capitalism. If you're dependent on a job, then that man who will give you a paycheck or not
Trickle
give you a
down
paycheck
something to you.
is actually determining your fate and whether or not you can survive or whether you perish.
Right.
And it's his. It's up to him. You have nothing. You have no agency. You have no way to determine your resilience.
Right.
You're just going every day and you're hoping you don't get laid off. And people get laid off, they kill their families, they kill their boss, they kill their neighbors. I mean, this is a big deal when you lose your job. Because you were dependent on survival for that. You are not resilient if you are dependent on survival on an external agent. You are not resilient. You go every day to work on your bent knee, begging for a job every day. Don't fire me. You are, by definition, not resilient because you have a job. And for Sam McCarter to come along and say, well, we need to get people into jobs in the job market and we're going to make them resilient. No, you're not. That's psychobabble. You're doing the exact opposite of making them resilient. You're making them dependent on something that can be yanked out from under them on the drop of a hat, moment's notice, or no notice at all. They show up for work and the doors are locked and the windows are boarded over. That much notice.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah.
So let's talk about what resilience looks like.
Right.
Let's talk about what that word means, okay? And not just throw it out there like now you're a resilience master and you know what, you're a Zen master of resilience. No, you're not. You're just an empty suit. You're talking about a word that you don't even understand. So let's talk about resilience. What is that? Right.
And on top of it, you know, it comes down, he was inspired, or actually he's a his project of our governor Gavin Newsom and his support for our climate crisis and addressing our climate crisis. So that's what something, you know, and so basically, you know, that's where he was coming from this. Thanks. And so he's creating this, he's like what they call a demonstration project. This is the beginning. He has a very close relationship with Gavin Newsom, I'm sure. Wants to be the governor, I'm sure. And he's the 10th largest city. He's the 3rd largest city in California. So, you know, he's got a big impact, San Jose. And so we are doing this Resiliency Core that he's creating, and millions of dollars are going towards it. And he's going to create jobs for young people, especially minority people that have been hit hardest in terms of climate change. No, not in terms of COVID-19. And so
that'll be next.
Well, and climate change, you know. So, you know, these are his goals, but it's definitely gone into small business. That's what Vice Mayor supported it, Chappie Jones, because he's a capitalist, and he's saying, oh well, small people will get skills, and it'll be like an internship, and they'll learn about all these things about marketing and blah blah blah. So it was like helping small businesses recover. And it was like, oh, okay. And there's some, monies for nonprofit work. And so I'm saying is that, if we're really going to talk about resiliency and spend all of our tax dollars on that, I'm saying that it has to be towards true resiliency and true climate change, fossil fuel reduction to zero. And these are the goals that we are needing to meet. And we will have, so like Extinction Rebellion says, we need a, what they call the client, he calls it, they call it, that you need a citizens advisory group, and and that's what also Prince Charles says, as we need to be on a war footing, and we need a advisory, a Marshall-like plan of the best. And that was something Kat also talked about, was a Manhattan-style project of really solving these problems. We need the best minds put on this.
Okay, fine. Now, can we stop right there? That's a long laundry list you just put out there.
Mm-hmm.
Of things that everyone should be doing, running around with their hair on fire doing. Now, one of those things leads to resilience.
Well, I didn't even talk about it yet. I was precursoring it, that we need to have a group that really designs the resiliency.
Okay,
he is not the one that designs the resiliency.
Okay, now you're talking policy.
Well, that's what I'm talking
I have
about.
a question for you. Same question I have for Sam Licardo, Gavin Newsom. What does it mean to be resilient?
Right, that's what we need to look at.
Do it. Tell me right now what it means.
Okay, it means to grow food.
Okay, so what does Prince Charles have to do with that? Nothing. Now, how do you get people growing food?
Well, it's growing food and reducing our fossil fuels to zero. Those are the two things. I'm talking about two things. No?
No, that's not true.
Okay, fine.
Now,
fine.
It's tangentially true. It's glancing on truth. Reducing our global fossil fuel emissions to zero is not how you make people resilient. However, on that topic, if you can get people to live their lives without fossil fuels, then when the fossil fuels go to zero, they are not disrupted. Okay, now that's a long and drawn out sentence. I know it's not a soundbite, but that is actually the challenge. Globally, we must go to zero fossil fuel consumption. When we do that, it's going to break everything. And I mean, it's going to break a million things all on the same night. All right, that we do that. If people are dependent on fossil fuels, then they are dead. If they are not dependent on fossil fuels when that night comes, then they will survive. And that's the definition of resilience.
Okay, good. Now, he already set it up. There it is.
Now that's a long sentence, and there's all kinds of whereases and wherefores, but that's actually how you define resilience.
And that when the fossil fuels gets turned off, and our leaders are working on doing that, we have that example of it. Rod Diridon Sr. says that's all. He can't help me with anything because he's working on shutting off the gas and the oil and the coal. So, and what's his name is doing the same thing, Bill Gates, and all the voices are coming in to talk the same language, which is one world voice of that we have to stop burning fossil fuels to zero.
Not one world voice, but certainly among the elites, they have a unified message. Yes.
Yeah, and there was something even with China. Oh, there was a thing that was put on with China that they were having this world meeting with the Sino. It's called Sino-American Conference. It's actually happening today. And when they were talking in Beijing, virtually, whatever, that outside the doors of the Beijing government that was having the meeting, there was a dust storm, a very serious dust storm. And this was the desertification of China. And it was one of their major problems. So it was an exclamation mark on the issues. I don't know if they were talking about climate change, but it was like, okay, we need to talk about climate change. As you look out your door, there's a dust storm out there. And, we're seeing it with what's going on in our southern part of our country, in Alabama, the tornadoes that are happening, that are so strong, and the hail, all coming from, even the meteorologists are talking about it, the heating of the Gulf of Mexico. And then Katz explains that it's the cold coming down from and this is not weather, this is a change in our Earth system dynamics. We have lost the Arctic ring fence, the polar, so they also call that the polar vortex?
No, it's called this. Well, it is.
The polar vortex is when it comes down.
It's unfortunately the terms are confusing.
Yeah.
It's called a circumpolar wind. So circumpolar means goes around.
But the term I thought the term polar vortex was really used when it was the wavering of the Arctic fence, and then it was coming down like a vortex. That's what a vortex is it's coming down to a point. No?
Unfortunately, no.
No. Okay, whatever it is the Arctic fence that is broken.
Meteorologists name things. They even give them human names.
So that's not a good name, vortex.
Hurricane Helen. Okay. They don't want to talk about what's actually happening. They want to put a name on it and then go get to the sports section. Okay. They just want to move on and not have you dwell on it.
Yeah. So anyway, so what I was saying is this cold air is coming down. That's how we got the Texas freeze and Colorado freeze. And now we're getting hail the size of, tennis balls. And this is because the moisture is coming up from the south, from the Gulf of Mexico around the equator, which is where the Gulf of Mexico is. And it's heating up. Our heating, our global heating happens to our oceans have taken a lot of that heat. And the Gulf of Mexico is like a bathtub. It's surrounded by land, and so it really heats up. It doesn't have a lot of flow going into the big ocean. It's a bathtub like, and so it really heats up the Gulf of Mexico. And that more moist air is coming up, hitting that cold polar vortex. We'll just call it the air from the polar vortex that's coming down, and that's not supposed to be here. It's supposed to stay up there where the Alaskans are and the Inuit who learn to deal with it with their, learning how to live in what do they call them? I love those things. The ice igloos. They learn to live in igloos. We haven't learned to live in igloos. We haven't learned to, eat whale blubber to keep warm, and the things that they're doing up there that they've adapted, and now it's coming down here, and this becomes an uninhabitable Earth because we're not used to it. So. Anyway, that was getting back. So getting back to our resiliency core, it's like no more BS. I don't want to hear any more BS, and it's too critical of an issue that we should be teaching our children to grow food and live without fossil fuels. This has to be the curriculum.
Sure, why not? They'll be more resilient if they can do that.
Right, and that we need to, we need to be getting bicycles to everyone, that needs it. This could be part of the core. It could be bicycle repair. Anything that deals with living without fossil fuels has to be the curriculum. And I think really resiliency is growing food first, because even if we don't learn to live without fossil fuels, or we don't live without fossil fuels, we saw that we are very dependent on fossil fuels to bring us our food. And that is so an oxymoron to our survival, to think that we are dependent to have a truck come to bring our food, so like animals in a zoo.
In terms of resilience, you can survive pretty well without a home. Mm-hmm. Maybe not as a family. It's harder for children and parents with children to get by.
Snuggle together and get warm.
But you can do okay, right? You can do okay without a home. You can make shelter when you need it, where you are.
Yeah.
It's a lot harder to survive without food.
That's true.
Especially for children. They need a lot of food, a lot of calories. And when they don't get it, they suffer behaviorally and physiologically.
Yeah, and mentally. Yeah.
Very quickly.
Right,
okay?
Right. Oh,
very quickly.
Right, all right.
And it's even harder to survive without water. Okay? And there are not too many places you can get water if you don't have money. So in terms of resilience, you don't really have to teach people survival without fossil fuels, because we have lots of people that survive without fossil fuels. Maybe not if you consider indirect fossil fuel consumption, like going to your supermarket and buying the produce off the shelf when that was delivered by a 18-wheeler, right? So yes, you have your market, you're okay. But you do need to teach people, because people don't know how to make their own food and how to secure their own water supply. They don't know how to do that. They can live without fossil fuels because they can walk and they can ride a bicycle, and they know how to do those two things, and they may even have a bicycle. Know where to get food if they can't go to the market and pull it off the shelf. They don't know how to do that. Mm-hmm. That has to be taught. No one's teaching that. No one's teaching that.
Yeah, and then you see how our food is all packaged in plastic, and it comes on a big truck, and everybody who's at the store is vulnerable to COVID-19. We saw that, and then we're seeing the same thing with restaurants. And we have to start making corrections. They say that I was thinking about our federal government giving so much money, $29 billion or something, to restaurants, and that we're supporting restaurants, and that's making food for people.
That's keeping businesses in business.
Making food for people.
That's how politicians get elected.
But the truth is, those are the people that are getting sick. Are the ones that are sitting in the kitchen, all cooking together from all over the world.
It's hard for me to care about that. Okay. But it's hard for me to worry about people getting sick and people dying of coronavirus when we have problems
Yeah.
that are going to kill
Okay,
billions of
so
people.
what I'm saying is
And it's
that
not
we have
coronavirus.
to start working outside.
Billions of people are
Right.
going to die
Right.
if we can't secure our food supply.
Right.
Billions of people.
Okay, right, yeah. And the thing that COVID has taught us is the benefit of being outside. So,
And the billions of people
growing
that
food,
die.
what a great idea.
I mean,
you could do that
coronavirus
outside.
kills mostly old people. The current coronavirus, anyway, kills mostly older people. And, you know, you can believe that or not, but that seems to be the case. But starvation kills everybody, and it starts with the children. Okay, it starts with the children, and it's a terrible way to die. And it's terrible for parents to watch their children wither away
and
because
there's
of
another
starvation.
example that we talk about.
You can forget about coronavirus.
Okay,
It's like a nothing burger.
Well, let's talk
compared
about
to
what's
that.
happening at the southern border, where the people from Honduras, the families from Honduras and Guatemala and Nicaragua and Mexico are sending their children. Maybe it's mostly from the Central America where they were hit so hard on that hurricane. Let's get it straight. What's really going on the south border is we destroyed their home.
Well, you did destroy their home. Okay.
Their food production.
Okay, you did that. All right, certainly.
That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the real Mother Earth. I'm talking about Mother Earth.
Okay, words matter.
Okay.
Climate change, which is caused by the wealthier nations, destroyed their homes. Of course, it knocked them down, blew the roofs off, and all that.
No, I'm talking about that. I'm talking about.
But that's what you said.
Okay,
so
but I'm talking about their home of growing food.
What it did was it destroyed their way of life.
Right.
Okay. They can't grow food anymore.
The banana trees are down. And,
whatever.
All of it.
Do they even eat the bananas? Maybe the bananas are all for export. But the point is, their way of life was dependent on a very complex set of gears that all had to mesh and turn at the same time.
Right.
And all that was blown to pieces.
Food production.
Okay.
Their food production.
Everything production. Water, food, security, hospitals, schools, everything was blown up.
And they're sending their kids, which is interesting. You know, when Kat says that, which is really very powerful as a teacher that he is and understands kids and as a biologist as well, you know, that they can't survive without food. You know, they're more vulnerable. And we ask, well, how could parents send their children to America? Well, that's their only choice.
It must be pretty desperate.
Survival.
And, you know, and Americans on this side of the border, you know, we sneer at these people sending their children. It must be a conspiracy to, you know, overrun the white people in North America. It's not. It's an act of desperation, because when they send their children away, they're basically saying goodbye.
Right.
I'll never see you again.
But they can't survive where they are.
I could die in the next 6 months of some yellow fever or dysentery or something, or, you know, just things get so hard to live here. We die of starvation because we stayed behind. And you are going to the north, and hopefully it'll work for you. But I may never see you again, and I may never know if that worked out. I'm just sending you into the void, and good luck with all that.
It's so interesting.
And pray every night to Jesus. And Mary.
You know, and the way the Republicans are been saying is that, you know, these people that are coming are criminals and M8 and M1 or whatever they're called, the bad people, all the bad people. Just like they did to the Jews, all the Jews, you know, however they demonized the Jews. I don't even know what they did. Kat most probably knows how they demonized them to kill them. You know, that's what they do. They demonize those people. And what is interesting is, like, here, we're going to send you our kids, you know, and then you're going to say that they're the criminals, you know.
Well, okay, so what the Trumpites and the Trumpsters and the Freedom Party are all about is they want the white nationalists to show up at the border with their AR-15s and kill the people coming across. They want them dead. Okay, they want them dead
because they're criminals.
No, they're not criminals.
No, I know, and that's a lie. That's BS.
Well, that's what you said.
But I'm just saying what they're saying.
Okay, fine. Then say it. That's what they're saying, because it's not like that's what you're saying.
You're right.
Yeah, so they want them down there with AR-15s and rocket-propelled grenades and tanks and
they are
APCs
down there.
and everything else.
They're down there.
And shoot those people as they come across, because, you know, when those people come across and they get in this country and they register to vote, if somewhere down the line, as adults, they're going to vote Democrat. And the GOP doesn't want that. They're already fighting demographics. Most of their voters are old, angry white people, and that's just not going to last. Those people are going to die. And most young people, even in the South and the Midwest, are more progressive. They just are. They're young people. They're more progressive. They have a very taste in culture and cuisine and everything else. They have black friends and Asian friends, and they all go to high school and they hang out and they listen to, you know, trance music, and those people may not vote Republican. And the Republican Party is in deep yogurt right now. And they don't want more brown people coming across the border going to register as Democrats.
Anyway, so getting back to
send the angry white people down there to shoot them.
Our main
That's
thesis,
where this is headed.
The main thesis is about resiliency. And so, and I guess I was saying we're putting so much money at the federal level towards restaurants. But like Sam Liccardo has said, it starts from the bottom up. And I think our cities are more, what do we call it, more agile to make the changes that we really need. And it is growing food. And what better place to grow food?
He will never say those words. No, I know.
And what better place than the Garden of Heart's Delight?
You know why he will never say those words? It's very important you understand this.
We got rid of it. We got rid of the Garden of Heart's Delight.
No, the reason he will never say that people need to stay home and grow food is because if the Restaurateurs Association hears that, rather than him saying everyone should go to a restaurant,
go help
an expensive meal, then they're not going to contribute to his campaign. Okay? And he can't say that. He can never utter the words, everyone should stay home and learn how to grow and cook and preserve your own food, because that's called resilience. And you'll be better off. You'll be able to feed yourself. Even if you don't have a job, you can still feed yourself. Okay? And there's no need for mental illness, losing your mind, killing your whole family.
They have to stay home.
Because you couldn't eat.
You're so lucky. We're so lucky that we get to stay home.
But he won't say those words, and he won't ever allow that to be the program. You have to stay home and learn how to grow food so that you're resilient. His program will always be, I'm going to give you money, UBI, whatever. I'm going to give you money, and then I want you to go spend it. I want you to go spend it at a restaurant, Burger King, whatever, any place at all. And when the downtown restaurateur association hears those lovely words, take the money and spend it in a restaurant, then they come back to Sam Liccardo next time he's up for election, maybe as governor, maybe as mayor. They come along and they say, Sam, thank you for your support and all those kind words, all those many years.
Small businesses.
And here's $50,000 towards your election campaign. And that's what he's angling for, okay? That's why he says those words. All that is code. It's all code to his buddies.
Okay.
Running
but anyway,
city.
Right now we are creating a Resiliency Core.
Who's we?
He is.
No, he's
with
not.
Our tax dollars.
Yes.
He's doing it.
And it's funneling it all to his buddies in the Downtown Businessmen's Association. Right. It has nothing to do with
resilience. The young people
so let's not accuse Sam Liccardo of being concerned about resilience, because he's not.
That's what I'm pissed that it's not working. It's not the right way. And so I am writing my letter about, that we need to grow food. We need to buy the property at 615. And you're saying, I say it should be bought, that we need to put our money where our mouth is, and that we need to be growing food. And, and maybe it can be an eco village.
It's fine.
It can be an eco village. You
can
have housing there.
Money grows on trees. Okay. These days they just print money and then they spend it however they want to.
Right.
So it's fine.
And the fact is that our general plan, and like the owner of the property is saying, is 615. That's the only thing the city will allow them to build is a hotel. It's like, oh, well, then we've got a big problem. Our city is really very bad in their general plan. It's really bad. And it's criminal. And when we're in the situation we're in.
Yeah, they're corrupt.
It's criminal. So help us, Barbara. We need help, Barbara, to take on. And, I'm starting a group. I guess the group would be to grow food. I guess it is to grow food. And to create a curriculum of growing food, and that it would be the only curriculum that we're going to work on. And,
all right, well, you do that. Most of your friends are old ladies, don't have kids around. You're not going to get very far.
Well, there's Barbara Luan, an old lady, doesn't have kids around. Whatever. So what does that have anything to do with it?
Okay, so they don't have children to influence.
But that's our job. It doesn't matter as elders. It takes a village. We're not going to leave it up to the parents who are trying to balance,
You can't take children from the parents, and the parents want their kids in school.
We're just talking about the Resiliency Core program. The Resiliency Core program. There is one right now, and we're allotting the money towards it.
Okay, well, that's going to be about getting young people back flipping burgers, okay?
Yeah, exactly. And that's wrong.
And that's not resilience.
So that's BS to call it a resilience.
That's right back in, out of the fire, right back into the frying pan, okay?
That's right.
You're not resilient if you've got a minimum or below minimum wage job flipping burgers. You've just got a job. That's all you can say. Until that guy decides he wants to put a robot in there, or someone else who's willing to work for even less than you. Okay, and then you don't have a job anymore.
And so,
where was the resilience and all that? Explain this to me, please. I'm listening very carefully.
What you do is you buy some land and you start learning to do it. We start learning to take the asphalt and turn it back into the Garden of Heart's Delight. And that's what we have. That's the lessons we have to learn.
Right, fine. Fair enough. Now, here's how that actually happens. You have to go through a massive, compressive, deflationary death spiral like we talked about this morning, okay? The economy, local, regional, and global, has to absolutely implode. And when it implodes, and there are businesses all around you completely shuttered, and they've been shuttered for years, and the plywood is peeling off. It's been on the windows for so long. Then you go to the city and say, you see this lot here? It's nothing but an eyesore. All the glass is broken out. There's homeless people sleeping inside. It burned out.
It's a bus depot.
It's burned out twice inside already. Tell you what, the neighborhood is going to get together and we're going to demolish it. You're going to bring a dumpster. We're going to put all the junk and the demolition and then
detritus.
And then we need heavy equipment or a lot of pry bars. And we're going to pry up all the concrete, all the asphalt, all the everything. And then we're going to need deliveries of compost from the county dump. You know, bring us in four tons of compost. And then we're going to need shovels and hose. And we're going to work that stuff into that dirt. We're going to bring that dirt back alive. Then we're going to need irrigation. And we're going to need all this stuff. The city can help with that. The city can help with that. The city can streamline the process. They can give you free permits. They can give you free oversight. They can deliver the dumpsters to have the stuff hauled off for you. They don't provide the back and the sweat equity, but they can provide these other things. And then you take a broken down lot that's been abandoned for years because of the absolute implosion of the global economy, and you convert it into a garden. Okay, that's how that happens. It doesn't happen in the way you think. It doesn't happen because someone gave you a $5 billion grant and you bought. That's not going to happen. It'll only happen out of desperation.
Right, it's not going to ever
happen. It will
happen
out of desperation. It will not happen because of foresight.
Right,
or proper leadership, or management of a crisis, or controlled demolition, or anything else.
Try to create resiliency.
No, it's not going to happen for any of those reasons. It's going to happen because the entire area, thousands of square miles, was involved in a compressive implosion and an absolute compressive economic collapse. Okay?
Yeah.
And people can't eat.
Right.
And the city will say, well, we can bring dumpsters and you can tear that building down. And we'll bring in a front loader. We'll help you tear down the big parts. And then you got to do the rest. What I say. And then you got a garden. And that's how it happens. It doesn't happen any other way. There is no leadership. None.
And then what happens?
None. There will never be leadership on this topic. Never.
Right.
So long as capitalism survives, and they have to keep one eye on their contributions to their campaigns, one eye on the business people and how happy they are, so long as there's anyone out there running a business and pulling the strings of governance,
and making money that they'll need for their campaign.
We'll never have a conversation about resilience or creating resilient communities or food security or anything. You will never have that discussion. Never. Never. You need an absolute, terrifying, compressive collapse. And then you'll be allowed to do what you have to do to survive. You'll be allowed to do it. When every capitalist vampire on the fucking planet has been beheaded and thrown in hell, then yes, you will be allowed. You'll be allowed to do whatever you have to do to survive. That's how this is going to work. It does not work any other way. There is one way this works. They have to vanish. When they're gone,
who, the politicians? The politicians, or
the politicians were going to go where their masters go, straight to hell.
Capitalism has to
straight to hell. Okay, is where they're going to go. That's where they came from. That's their home. They're going to go home. Okay,
capitalism.
Yes, all that noise is going to go straight to hell, and have a nice laugh on the way.
Really?
And then you will be allowed by default to survive. Whatever it takes for you to do that, you'll be allowed to figure that out. And they won't get in your way.
Right.
And if it involves tearing down buildings and pulling up the asphalt and planting plants,
then
they'll let you do that.
I forgot to tell you something.
But not until the entire planet has gone through a compressive collapse.
Okay, yeah. But one of the warnings about it makes it so serious that we have to do it now. We have to use our forethought because we have the 6th mass extinction happening. The 6th mass extinction. Wait, is that how I say it? The sixth mass.
Okay, all right. You know what though?
The sixth mass extinction.
You know what though?
Happening.
Circle back.
And that means our insects, our birds.
Well, no. The topic is resilience. Now, you can have a sixth mass extinction. I'm a biologist.
Okay.
I'm an ecosystem biologist. So what I'm going to say is heresy.
You didn't say it.
Okay, you can lose every single mammal above the size of a raccoon, and it makes no difference to your survival.
Oh, the insects do.
I'm just talking about megafauna.
Okay, fine.
You're going to lose every single mammal and fish and reptile bigger than a raccoon. Okay, that's what a mass extinction is about.
And it's happening.
Has nothing to do with your resilience.
Okay.
Because you can still take your heirloom seeds, your tomatoes, your gourds, your squashes, your whatever. You can find your little,
asphalt and pull it up.
1/20th of an acre, and plant that and intensively cultivate that.
Yeah.
And no, you won't. And all the elk and the gazelles and the elephants and the giraffes and the lions and the hyenas and everything else are gone. They're all extinct.
Doesn't matter.
And that has no bearing whatsoever on your ability to go out there across the street, pull up that asphalt, plant those seeds.
But the tiniest of them, the insect, is what we are losing. And like they say in the Bible, the weak shall be last. Whatever it is, the small, the weak.
I don't think they said that.
Whatever it is, the small will be first, and the weak will be first.
You should know your Bible. This is your book.
I'm Jewish.
I think it was.
Anyway, but Jesus said,
New Testament. The meek shall
inherit the earth. And the thing is that the meek shall be the first shall be last, and the last shall be first. And so.
Okay. Well, first of all of that is aspirational.
Okay, but now it's coming down to the truth, which is that the insects, the very smallest, the most insignificant, are the critical to our survival.
Okay, so biologist here has a word for you: wind pollinated.
Oh, we could be okay.
There are lots of things that are wind pollinated.
Some of our fabulous things like fruits.
Okay,
all right, fine.
I didn't say everything. I said there are some things that are critical.
Grains.
Your grains. So corn, wheat, barley are wind pollinated.
That's about it.
And if you're worried about bees and things coming and pollinating your flowers for your peas and your fruit trees.
And all your vegetables, basically.
No, not all your vegetables.
Well, so many of our vegetables.
Back up.
So many of our vegetables.
Back up.
What?
Name one.
Well, I was thinking about cucumbers.
Okay. They're fruits.
They're fruits.
They're fruit.
Okay,
vegetables are
peppers.
Cabbages, which is a leaf.
Okay.
Turnips,
well, how do they say pollinated?
Beets,
they don't need to be pollinated. They don't need to be pollinated. Okay, right.
Now, something has to be pollinated for you to get your seed crop for your next year.
Right.
But the way that works is you make sure that some of your plants remain in the ground. You let them go to seed, and you pollinate them.
You get to manually pollinate.
You just have to shake the flowers and hit them with a paintbrush.
I'm just saying,
or something. I'm here to tell you that a lot of things you eat are not fruits or nuts. Okay? And some of the things you eat that are seeds, like wheat and corn and their allies, are wind pollinated. Okay? So, the topic here is the sixth mass extinction and we're going to all starve to death. No.
All right.
Biologist here, ecosystem biologist, I'm here to tell you, you won't.
All right, good.
Now, I don't want a sixth mass extinction, but now I have one. I'm glad I'm not a practicing biologist anymore. I'd probably be suicidal. All right? We're in it.
Yeah.
We're in it, and we're not going to get out of it. This is it. This is how it's going to happen. The one thing, the only thing, I mean, this is the only thing that can curtail or minimize the damage caused by the current extinction event would be the absolute compressive, annihilating collapse of global capitalism. That's the one thing.
That will what? That will turn things around?
Reduce the impacts. No, I never said that.
Right.
I would never say that.
Okay.
The only thing that would reduce the impacts of the sixth mass extinction would be the compressive annihilation of global capitalism. Okay?
Global capitalism.
Now, there are problems with that. I'm not advocating that. I'm simply putting on my
That
engineering hat.
it would solve our problems. It would solve our
as an
problems.
engineer, I'm telling you that. No, I didn't say that. I did not say
It
it would
would-
solve your problem.
It would stop the.
I would never use those words.
Okay.
And you shouldn't use those words either. I said it would help curtail
Slow
some
down,
of
slow
the
down.
impacts from the sixth mass extinction.
Or slow it
because
down. Slow it down.
is currently completely in the wheelhouse of international capitalism.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It is the clearing of the rainforest to make money. It's the clearing of the forest to make money. It's the drilling of the oil wells to make money. It's the fracking. It's the tar sands. It's the everything to make money. It's the thousands of square miles of rangeland that's devoted just to cattle and sheep to make money. Okay, that's all international capitalism. These are huge corporations doing that. These are not your neighbor next door doing these things.
Right.
And that's what's destroying the planet.
Right.
And that's what's destroying the wildlife on the planet. And that's what's going to cause the extinction of the wildlife on the planet.
Right.
And if you wanted to curtail some of that extinction event, you wanted to make it shorter in time, you wanted to make it less broad in scope, you wanted fewer organisms involved in the extinction event. If you wanted to have any ameliorating influence on the sixth mass extinction, then what you have to do is just destroy international capitalism.
Right. International.
Now you're still going to have a sixth mass extinction, but instead of 95% of all megafauna on Earth being extinct, maybe it's 75 or possibly even 55. Okay, so it still happened. It was still a great loss. We still don't know what happened to the last of the elephants, but yet you'd be able to reduce the impact. So yes, you could do that, but in the process of cheering on the absolute eradicating, annihilating destruction of global capitalism, you just condemned 2/3 of the human race to starvation.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Overlooking that. Well, I wasn't overlooking that. I'm just saying that if you're stuck on this topic of the sixth mass extinction, you can trade that for annihilation of the human species. And that's like not even a maybe. It's like not even, well, maybe it'll happen. No, you're exchanging for the other. And so guess what? Most humans won't do that. They're just not going to do that. Most humans are not going to make that exchange. They're going to go out and they're going to kill the last elephant and eat it. Okay, that's what they're going to do. They're going to kill the last pangolin and eat it. They're going to kill the last tapir and eat it.
All right.
That's what they're going to do.
Oh, honey, we got a leak again. We got to get a little pot over here. It's still raining. It's raining right now.
Yeah, it's raining a little bit.
There's a leak right by that chair.
Yeah, I see that. Always leaks right there.
Hello, come on in. Coming in? Come in, kitty.
We're done here.
Come in, kitty. Hello.
We are done here.
Oh, and wet there. All right, we're getting going. Well, that was the real choice. That was the truth. What you were saying is that